Senator, welcome back to the show. We apologize for being a little bit late here. President Trump was walking around with an Easter bunny, and the chat was just going crazy, wondering who's inside of the bunny outfit. You are a very powerful senator. Do you have any idea who's in the bunny outfit today? I just got to start with that.
Well, Benny, I do not. I hope you and your listeners had a great and happy Easter.
Okay. Is it Kash Patel? Is this going to be, until you get full transparency from the FBI and the DOJ, do you think it's Kash Patel?
I would say this is pretty low on my priority list in terms of getting information out of this administration.
Who's playing the bunny? Okay. We look forward to disclosures on that. You are fighting right now for disclosures about January 6th and undercover FBI agents inside of the crowd. And we're really excited about that because, well, we've heard absolutely nothing except for lies from Christopher Wray. You have a brand new article up here from Fox News talking about your ongoing, I don't think you could call it a fight now because now the FBI is cooperating, correct?
Correct. Under this administration, it'll still be a tough slog. The deep state and people within these agencies and departments, they don't give up the secrets of the deep state very easily, no matter who's in charge.
Yes. So can you explain what you are pressing right now, the DOJ Inspector General on, and what you are looking for with this untasked undercover agents? Can you unpack that for us?
Well, again, what happens with government disclosure is it's always limited hangouts, modified limited hangouts. They'll give you some truth. They may give you lies, but they never share the whole story. And so we do know that there were individuals that were affiliated, confidential human sources, people that worked with the FBI, not necessarily for them, in the crowd. But the Inspector General report only talked about them and didn't open up its aperture and talk about other potential federal agents that might have also been in the crowd tasked to do specific things. So again, we just simply don't know. But again, this is a hallmark. What I have learned over the last few years in particular, and I think COVID really opened up my eyes, is the extent to which the federal government withholds information, covers things up, lies outright to the American people time and time and time again, now for decades. I mean, you can go back to the JFK assassination, the Warren Commission, RFK, MLK assassinations, Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, there's a long list of things the federal government has just outright lied to us about. We have no idea everything they are covering up. And it's just becoming more and more obvious as they continue to lie and cover things up.
I think that there's some hope, however, potentially on the horizon, because while they were able to get away with murdering the president on camera in the 1960s, there are far more questions that get asked in a much speedier process. And I think people are more aware, Senator, like the January 6th pipe bomber story. This is, of course, tertiary to January 6th. This is the one guy that did actually commit an act of terrorism on that day. It's somebody who, according to FBI whistleblowers who's been on the show, the FBI knows exactly who this person was. They were on the task force, set out to find this person. They have identities, they have DNA, they have voice matching, and then we've gotten nothing but corrupted information from the FBI about the January 6th pipe bomber. Do you think we'll ever know the identity of this person?
I don't. We're told though that AT&T and these other mobile carriers all of a sudden, or one of them had corrupted data, so they can't track cell phone in terms of where those geo locations are. Again, there's so many things just utterly suspicious. You look at the video, but you're right. In the 60s, we had one Zapruder film.
Yes.
Capturing JFK assassination. Now we have literally, for example, thousands of recordings of what happened in July 13th in Pennsylvania, in Butler, that assassination attempt. So it's getting more and more difficult to hide things. Again, it's not that the federal government doesn't attempt to hide things, but it's more difficult for them to get away with doing it. Now, it's still hard to get to the bottom answers. People who do wrong things, that commit crimes, they try and cover things up. And when you have the power of the federal government, you've got a lot of power to cover things up.
So you believe that this is a federal cover-up with the pipe bomber. Is that your conclusion?
Oh, I think all of January 6th, I think there's a massive cover-up of exactly what happened. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of exactly what happened on January 6th. I mean, the lack of security around the Capitol. We had more security. There was more of a game plan. We were briefed more on the Brett Kavanaugh hearings than we were for that inauguration or for that day, when we knew there were going to be tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people protesting the election. So why weren't we prepared? Why weren't there, why wasn't there visible law enforcement on the West Capitol? They had bicycle racks, but they didn't have a visible police presence. I mean, it's absurd what happened. And then it's even more absurd what happened afterwards in terms of the Biden administration basically accusing half of America being potential domestic terrorism, the trampling of people's constitutional rights through speedy trial. Again, there's so much that went wrong with January 6th and surrounding it that I think is just being covered up.
Yeah, see, these Americans were deprived of due process. Many of them languished in prisons for a long time in this country. Democrats are demanding that foreign terrorists who have no right to be here get every single one of them a trial inside of our court system and the right to appeal before they are deported. You'll lose your country in one generation if you do that to the tens of millions of criminal aliens that are brought in to this country. What's your response to that Supreme Court ruling late in the small hours of the morning over the weekend?
Which one was that?
When they said that the Alien Enemies Act, the Supreme Court ruling that they can't be criminal aliens can't be deported via the Alien Enemies Act.
Right. Again, I don't know the specifics of the ruling. I don't think it's a definitive ruling. I think it's just kind of a hold in place until this thing can work its way through the courts. I mean, our judicial system, the wheels of justice turn very slowly. But I completely agree with the fact that Tom Homan said Democrats could have cared less to vet the millions of people the Biden administration and their policies allowed in this country. Now they want to vet every one of the criminals and potential terrorists that President Trump and Tom Homan are trying to deport. Again, the double standard is glaring.
Yeah, it's glaring. We covered on Friday, and I wanted to get your thought on this because you're the king of oversight. I know there's a crown that goes between you and Chuck Grassley, and we really respect your work, and we do our very best to support it. It was really nice to see this, because what people are looking for, Senator, is like a bright spot. And I know that everyone needs to be patient, but there's been so much that the country's been through. And the redoing of COVID.org was really refreshing for this audience because they placed the blame directly at the feet of Dr. Fauci. And it seemed like potentially it even included the Fauci pardon at the bottom, saying that he's effectively a criminal and how he covered up COVID. I know this is an issue that's near and dear to you. Will we ever see, what levels of accountability will we ever see for this?
Well, if I had my way, a lot of accountability, which starts with exposure. Again, I've been less interested in the COVID origins because I think it's been obvious since early in 2020 that this was man-made, probably released from a lab in Wuhan, and also because they gave the Chinese so much running room that the definitive evidence is probably be lost for history. So I've been less concerned about that than wondering why didn't we treat COVID? What happened in terms of the sabotage of early treatment, and why have we completely been covering up the vaccine, the injection, the COVID injection injuries? So my tweet after the White House acknowledged that this was probably a lab leak was, okay, that's great, acknowledging something that I think has been obvious for years. Next step is start acknowledging the fact that these COVID injections injured a lot of people, destroyed their lives, killed people, acknowledging that fact so these individuals can be helped so they can be treated.
What can we expect? Here's the post that you made right here. What can we expect next for some type of disclosure, some type of arrest, some type of revelation? You're at the center of the center when it comes to government oversight. Again, the crown is passing from Chuck Grassley to you for the king of oversight. Can you give our audience a little bit of an insight into what's being worked on right now?
Well, unfortunately, I think you can expect that a lot of documents were destroyed. It was my staff that uncovered the needle in the haystack with David Morens, or Dr. Morens, saying how he worked with a FOIA individual to avoid providing information under Freedom of Information Act. We sent out a letter now to Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and the Office of Inspector General of HHS because Tom Shimabukuro, the individual within the CDC that was supposed to be watching over their safety surveillance systems. It was touting how wonderful theirs is going to be before they started trashing it. In response to our subpoena, HHS can't find any of the any communication responsive to our request from Tom Shimabukuro. So we referred that to the FBI and Justice Department. So my guess is this is one CDC individual that's probably destroyed an awful lot of his communications, awful lot of records. So again, it's not going to be automatic. As much as I know, RFK Jr. is dedicated to radical transparency, I can pretty well guarantee that the people that are within these agencies, a lot of them are going to cover their tracks and cover things up and destroy a lot of evidence. So that's going to be frustrating for investigators like myself. It's going to be very frustrating for the American public because this is their information. They deserve the truth. It's been hidden from them way too long. But again, that's just in one area. I think it's interesting. I've been following you. You're starting to open up the aperture on 9/11, World Trade Center number 7. What the firefighters are telling us. I think that's something that needs to be explored as well. Now I know you and I are both considered conspiracy theorists, but that's exactly how they keep this stuff covered up. Is they accuse those of us that want to expose the truth that we're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists.
Well, members of Congress are now coming forward on Tucker's show and saying, hey, they completely attacked my family and destroyed my career because I questioned the official story of September 11th, and none of it makes sense. And so the only way to find the truth is to ask the right questions. And this is the single most consequential moment in America. America changed forever, not for the better, after September 11th. And it's worth understanding what truly happened, just like on January 6th. To try and find the truth, you have to be able to ask the right questions. You go back to the firefighters. Every firefighter inside of those buildings was saying, including Donald Trump, was saying that this official narrative cannot be true. And so, we hope that there's some disclosures there as well. One final thing, and you brought it up, and it was chilling. You said that they've destroyed the documents. And you're just talking about COVID documents. So do we have any hope of ever getting like a proper Epstein document dump? Is there like actual hope here of getting any true documents that are related to events of September 11th or JFK? Or have those things been so black boxed and so decimated that we'll never know the real truth?
Well, again, just like we have thousands of recordings versus one Zapruder film, it's not just the sender that has a record of email communications, for example. So, I mean, the Dr. Morin's email, we didn't get that from the agencies. We got that from a university that email was sent to. So there's a lot of people, we gather information from all kinds of different sources, and we cross-reference, when we're asking for certain communications. If we get it from one party outside the government and we don't get it from people within the government, that's how we have evidence that they're either covering something up or they've already tried to destroy evidence. But again, in today's electronic world, it's hard to destroy, particularly electronic evidence.
But they're still doing it. But you were able to find cases of them doing it.
Yeah, well, again, my guess is they are. And again, the fact that there's nothing responsive to our subpoena with Tom Shimabukuro indicates that, yes, he absolutely destroyed evidence that we had sent letters of, preservation of record letters to repeatedly to the agencies not to destroy this evidence.
And I know that we're up against a hard out. Just one final question, since you brought it up. What would you like to know about September 11th, the official story there, Senator?
Well, let's start with Building 7. Again, I don't know that you can find structural engineers other than the ones that had the corrupt investigation inside NIST that would say that thing didn't come down in any other way than a controlled demolition. I mean, you just look at that. You talk about molten steel. Again, you listen to the documentary Bravo 7. There's an awful lot of questions. Who ordered the removal and then destruction of all that evidence? Totally contrary to any other firefighting investigation procedures. I mean, who ordered that? Who was in charge? I think there's some basic information. Where's all the documentation from the NIST investigation? No, there are a host of questions that I want, and I will be asking, quite honestly, now that my eyes have been opened up. I've talked to former Congressman Kurt Weldon now. I will work with him to expose what he's willing to expose as well.
Wow. So we may actually see hearings about this.
I think so. And by the way, this was opened up when my ranking member now, when he was chairman of the permanent subcommittee investigation, he did the investigation on the PGA and Live Golf and the PIF. Part of that is we had 9/11 families coming forward and saying, we want the FBI files unredacted. We want those made available in terms of what happened. What did the FBI know had happened? So we got engaged with that on a bipartisan basis. We wanted to get those answers, those documents for the families. Again, we didn't get squat from the FBI. So hopefully now with this administration, I think President Trump should have some interest being a New Yorker from himself. What actually happened in 9/11? What do we know? What is being covered up? My guess is there's an awful lot being covered up in terms of what the American government knows about 9/11.
Wow, including who let the hijackers into the country, which was John Brennan, station chief in Doha. Why would he do that? And why would you let him take flight lessons? There's so many things that don't make absolutely no sense at all when you actually look at the government's own documentation. This is from Guantanamo Bay. And then to your last point, and then let's please put up the senator's X account here. Everybody follow Ron Johnson. This is bombshell stuff. But yeah, President Trump on the morning of September 11th saying there's no way those buildings came down by themselves. They're the strongest buildings in all of New York. There's no way they came down that way. This is President Trump's own words. And it matches the words of the firefighters who were in the building, many of them who've perished. So we owe them, at the very least, these guys gave their lives. We owe them the chance to get absolution here and the truth. Thank you, Senator, for fighting for those things. God bless you and Godspeed in your pursuit of the truth.
Take care. Thanks for having me on.